Welcome back inside the Brogan Hillman show, and today we have a big video. It's the NFL draft recap. The draft wrapped it up on Saturday, the rounds 4 through 7 obviously on Saturday, and we have a lot to cover in the 2024 NFL draft recap. But first we have the Bible verse. Obviously today's Bible verse is John 16:33, and it goes, "In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart, I have overcome the world." The Lord is saying that there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of bad stuff that's going to try to steer you away from God, try to distract you from your relationship with God, but you have to fight those tribulations. You have to overcome those tribulations, and you have to see that God is bigger than all those things, and God is the Almighty. He is everything over the universe. He is not anything of this world, and He is better than everything of this world. So overcome all your temptations, all your fears and everything, and live your life for God. Now let's get straight into the video. Roll the title card, day 1. The first day was very active. We had 5 trades in the first round, majority of them coming later on in the round, in the 20s and everything. 5 trades. Minnesota moved up to 10. Minnesota again moved up to 17. Detroit jumped up to 24. KC jumped up to 28, and then Carolina jumped into the first round at the very last pick at 32. The Bears went out and drafted Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze to make for a brand new quarterback receiver duo in Chicago. This is going to be a very exciting duo to watch for years to come, and I'm very excited to see what those two have in store. Chicago's going to be looking very good this year, and this just helps them even more. A big shocker to a lot of people. Michael Penix Jr. goes to Atlanta at 8. I mean, myself included. I remember sitting on the couch. I was watching the draft. I remember specifically saying Dallas Turner right before they were about to announce the pick. I heard Michael Penix Jr. and I jumped up. I was looking around. I was confused. I was just shocked. Michael Penix Jr. at that 8 pick is absurd. You just go out and sign Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $210 million deal, and you're going to draft a 24-year-old injury-prone, 4-season-ending injury quarterback. I mean, he's really good quarterback, don't get me wrong, but if you're trying to do the Jordan Love experiment, same way Jordan Love sat behind Aaron Rodgers, he's already going to be 28 years old by the time to be a starter. What are you doing? Why are you going out and getting injury-prone quarterback that's going to be 28 by the time you have him start? Or do you see something with Kirk Cousins not working out after paying him for 4 years? I don't know what their thought process was behind that. It's just very shocking to a lot of people, and I don't know how I feel about Michael Penix Jr. going number 8 to the Falcons. It's just wild to me. The next point is Brock Bowers going 13 to the Raiders. I like this one. I like this pick a lot. They have Michael Mayer, obviously. Last year in the draft, in the second round, they took Michael Mayer. Brock Bowers is an overall stud athlete. I mean, you can play him in that slot receiver, play him on outside if you need to. You can stretch it, run a 2 tight end combo. This is not something that you're like, what are they doing? They already have a tight end. This is something like, all right, they're going to elevate that receiving core, elevate that tight end room. They're going to use them in unison, and Brock Bowers is go out, give another target to your quarterback, and just overall make it easier for your quarterback. Just overall a stud in that offense. And Brock Bowers, one of the most talented people in this draft, as we know, balled out at Georgia, obviously, for 3 years. I really like this pick here, Brock Bowers to the Raiders. Very solid pick in my opinion. I would like to point out 6 quarterbacks were taken in the first 12 picks, which is a record. That's the most in NFL history, taken within 12 picks. 6 quarterbacks. I mean, we expected it. We thought maybe it would happen, maybe it wouldn't. Michael Penix Jr. is really what helped elevate that. And again, just insane. Michael Penix Jr. went 8 to the Falcons. Still can't get over that. There was also 7 receivers taken in the first round. Obviously, the Panthers jumping up to make it 7 with Xavier Legette. We thought probably the Bills would have taken a receiver either way at that pick. Panthers were scared that Xavier Legette was going to fall to the Bills, so they jumped up and got their guy. That's tied first with the 2004 draft class for the most receivers taken in the first round. Again, 7 receivers taken in the first round, which is a lot. Very stacked class at receiver. Very good. So many receivers. I think there was like 35 receivers taken in total throughout the draft. Again, just stud draft class. Another stat, 14 offensive picks in a row. Obviously, they were the first 14 picks. They were all offense, which is something we didn't really expect. Again, Dallas Turner, we thought was going to break it up at that 8 spot, but he just did not. 14 offensive picks in a row. Most in NFL history. That is a record. Speaking of Dallas Turner, him falling all the way to 17 to Minnesota, who jumped up to get him. That is scary. That is very scary. That's very good for the Vikings. That is a win. You go out and get your QB1 in JJ McCarthy. You go out and get a very good edge rusher to replace Danielle Hunter, who went to the Texans in the offseason. Dallas Turner is a stud, and he is a very good piece. Great value at 17. That is amazing. Probably a top 5 player in this draft class, honestly, and I think he's one of the best defensive players. Miles Murphy's really good too. I have Dallas Turner as the best defensive player in this draft class, so props to the Vikings for going up and getting their guy at 17. Troy Fautanu, another guy that fell all the way to 20 for Pittsburgh. Great value there for Pittsburgh as well. They won this draft. I think they had a very good draft, A+ draft class. Pittsburgh Steelers go out and get their guy, protect your quarterback Russell Wilson, Justin Fields for the long haul, whoever it is, and I really like this pick, giving your quarterback some freedom and some more time in the pocket. Some of my last points for the first round, again, are the two receivers that went back-to-back to end it. Ricky Pearsall, who is not expected to be a first-round pick. Very interesting pick for the Niners. Makes you question what they're going to do with Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk in the long run. Just a very, very interesting spot to be in, and a very, very interesting pick at 31. And then 32, the Panthers jumping up and taking their guy in Xavier Legette. We heard that he was the pick all along for the Panthers at 33. They felt very, very threatened with the obviously Ricky Pearsall going off the board. You know, the Bills were probably going to take a receiver at that 32 spot, so they felt threatened, jumped up and made sure they get their guy. Love that pick from the Panthers, and that's all the notes I have from the first round. Roll the card for day 2 of the NFL draft. The second round, we saw from 2 more receivers going off the board to start it, make it 4 receivers in a row between the end of the first and beginning of the second. It was Keon Coleman to the Bills and Ladd McConkey to the Chargers. Chargers get their target for Justin Herbert. Obviously, they build up, got Joe Alt in the first round. The Bills get their target in a big Keon Coleman. Very good receiver, very good athlete, played basketball and football at Michigan State, had an amazing year at Florida State, and I love Keon Coleman. Great pick for the Bills. Jerzon Newton falling to 36 to the Commanders, who also had a very good draft. Love the Commanders draft. They go out and get one of the best defensive tackles in this draft, Jerzon Newton, along with their starter in Jaden Daniels. They took 2nd overall. Love that for the Commanders. Had a very good draft. 4 corners taken in a row, starting at the 40th pick, ending at the 43rd. Cooper DeJean to Philly, Kool-Aid McKinstry to the Saints. We saw Kamari Lassiter go to the Texans, and then Max Melton to the Cardinals. All very, very good guys. Cooper DeJean to Philly is a great fit. Kool-Aid McKinstry to New Orleans is a great fit. Kamari Lassiter to the Texans is a great fit. The Texans are building a fierce squad there. They're going to be a very fun team to watch. Houston has a very, very good draft class. I think they probably finished one of my favorite draft classes. I felt like Houston did a great job drafting. Building onto what they've already done this offseason, the Texans team is looking like a very, very deadly squad. And then Max Melton to the Cardinals, give them some more corner depth. They don't have a great secondary, so that will add a lot of help. And I love Max Melton to the Cardinals. That feels like a lot of sense, and that's a great pick for the Cardinals there. The first running back we saw go off the board went around at 45. Jonathan Brooks to the Panthers. Panthers got their guy in Xavier Legette, and they go out and get their running back in Jonathan Brooks. Really like that pick as well. I feel like Jonathan Brooks is going to fit that Carolina offense very, very well. Sit behind, Miles Sanders, be that RB2, split RB1 reps. Not going to be a 3-down back. He'll be there for 2 or so plays, and he'll learn behind a very good Miles Sanders. Adonai Mitchell fell very, very far in this draft. He fell to 52 to the Colts. The Colts, another team who had a very good draft, took Laiatu Latu in the first round at pick 15, the first defensive player off the board. 2 studs and 2 picks. Colts, I feel like, killed this draft class as well. Marshawn Kneeland to the Cowboys at 56 to pair with Micah Parsons. Feels like a great duo there, great pass rushing duo. Obviously, Marshawn Kneeland out of Western Michigan. I really like Marshawn Kneeland. He gets to the quarterback. I feel like he's a great edge rusher. He's going to be a stud for the Cowboys. The Chiefs move up once again, and they get Kingsley Sumateia, a guy that I was very high on if you watched the video, the 5 hidden gems in this draft class. Kingsley Sumateia, he was a projected 3rd rounder. Chiefs saw the value just like I saw the value, and they jump up to get their guy at 63, and that's all the notes I have from the 2nd round. But moving on to the 3rd round, it was on the same night. Start off with Trey Benson to the Cardinals. He will probably be their RB1 in Arizona eventually sometime his rookie season. Obviously, James Conner is in Arizona, but I feel like Trey Benson has a lot of value, a lot of upside. He's a great back out of Florida State. He's physical, he's fast, and he makes stuff happen. Trey Benson, again, a really good running back, the 2nd running back off the board. That is a great pick for the Cardinals, who also had a very, very solid draft. So much talent, so many teams building up and having great success in this draft. The Cardinals were one of those teams. A little bit of a surprise here, Blake Corum going off the board at 83 to the Rams. Seems a little early, but the Rams see something in the national champion, and I can't blame him. Blake Corum is a very, very solid guy. He performed very well at Michigan all year. He was like a 2-time All-American. Very solid running back. Very great pick there at 83. Pair him up with Kyron Williams. I like that pick for the Rams. Back-to-back Michigan studs. Roman Wilson goes off the board at 84. The very next pick to the Steelers. Steelers are like, oh well, Blake Corum's going off the board. Let's go get his all-star buddy in Roman Wilson, a guy that is a very, very good receiver. Going in the 3rd round, about where he was projected. Roman Wilson, I was very high on Roman Wilson coming out of college. I feel like he is a great receiver. He makes stuff happen. He makes men miss. His run after the catch is incredible. Not to mention he can go up and make crazy catches. Great pick there for the Steelers. Again, they killed the draft. Jalen McMillan went to Tampa Bay at 92. The 3rd Washington receiver off the board. Obviously, Roma Dunze went 9, and then Jalen Polk went like 34, somewhere around there to the Patriots. Jalen McMillan at 92. 3 Washington receivers in the top 100. Washington pumping out talent left and right in this draft, and that is great for the Huskies. rookies. Just overall a great look for recruiting wise and everything. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get a stud receiver in Jalen McMillan. Peyton Wilson goes to the Steelers, a team again just killed the draft. Great value. Injury concerns for Peyton Wilson for sure, missing an ACL after tearing it a couple times, but he was the NCAA Defensive Player of the Year last year in 2023. Just overall great value at the 97th pick. And to close off my third round notes, my day 2 notes, Luke McCaffrey going to the Commanders at 100, another stud target for the Commanders. Obviously, we know Christian McCaffrey was with them on draft night, watching his brother get drafted, teary-eyed, went to the Commanders. He's going to be a stud for the Commanders, another team that killed this draft class, and it's going to be a very fun team to watch this season. Washington pairing up with Jaden Daniels, Luke McCaffrey, just overall a great selection there. They had a very good first couple rounds and first 2 days. Now, roll the title card for day 3 of the NFL draft and the rest of the notes that I have for those 4 rounds. To start off the final day of the NFL draft, running backs started flying off the board. We saw tons of running backs go 6 in the 4th round. Jalen Wright went to Miami. Bucky Irving went to Tampa Bay to pair up with Jalen McMillan. Will Shipley went to the Eagles, who had a great draft already. Ray Davis went to Buffalo. Isaac Guerrero, who killed the combine, went to the 49ers. And Braylon Allen went to the New York Jets to pair up with Breece Hall in that backfield. 6 very good running backs, very stud running backs we saw during the combine go off the board. 4th round seemed to be the round 4 running backs. That's where they all started going off the board. Again, flying off the board left and right. And I really like the depth of that running back class. Very, very solid running back class. There was around, I think, 19 running backs drafted in total, and it was just great to see them all go off the board. Another note I had from the 4th round was Javon Baker going to the Patriots. Javon Baker was a stud receiver out of UCF that I saw a ton of value in, ton of potential. He went overall 110 again to the Patriots. Pair up with Drake May, give him a target. I feel like he's going to be a sneaky guy to watch this season, and I just love Javon Baker, and I feel like he deserves all the hype. Another receiver that I think is sneaky good that went 3 picks later was Tez Walker out of North Carolina. He went to Baltimore at 113. I thought it was interesting maybe Tez Walker could have went to the Patriots, tear up with this college quarterback, but it was Javon Baker with that pick. But Tez Walker goes 3 picks later to the Ravens, give Lamar Jackson another good target, and I feel like they're just building up that receiver room even more, and I really like that pick as well. The 4th round also seemed to be the round for the tight ends. 6 tight ends went off the board, a lot of stud tight ends, a lot of names being called in the 4th round. Obviously, if you were a tight end, that's the round that you would start flying off the board. And another note I have, the last note for the 4th round, is the Bears taking the first special teamer off the board. Torrey Taylor, a punter, a very solid punter out of Iowa. He goes at 122 to the Bears, giving them some more room in that special teams. Start off the 5th round. This was the round of the corners. 10 corners went off the board in the 5th round. All very good, all very stud corners. Teams just add more depth, fill up their cornerback rooms a little more. 5th round was the round to do it. Atlanta takes JT Bertrand at 143. This is why Dallas Turner would have been a great pick. You have Dallas Turner at the edge, and then you have JT Bertrand, a leader, a Mike linebacker, a very, very good leader, solid linebacker out of Notre Dame. Great value, great value. He's still on the board at 143. I think that was definitely the right pick, taking him there. Could have taken notes and taken Dallas Turner at 8, pair those two up in that backfield, in that box, and that would have been so scary for offenses to try to guard. That would have been a beautiful defensive room, but they whiffed on it. But they did still get their leader, JT Bertrand, a Mike linebacker from Notre Dame, at 143. Spencer Rattler, the 7th quarterback taken, first quarterback taken off the board since the 1st round, went to New Orleans at 150, give Derek Carr backup, a guy that has character concerns. I mean, we saw his personality on full display on shows like Last Chance U and Elite 11. I feel like he's definitely grown, become a lot more of a leader, a solid guy, and just more depth in that room for the Saints. Derek Carr's backup. Again, you have a guy that will fight Derek Carr in training camp, that'll just light a fire under him and hopefully performs better in his 2nd year as a Saint. I like the pick of Spencer Rattler at 150 and give the Saints some depth at that quarterback position. The Browns take Jamari Thrash, an underrated receiver, a very underrated receiver, at 156. I feel like that's great value for Jamari Thrash. Very fast, very good after the catch. I really like that pick, 156 of Jamari Thrash. And the Browns are a team, I don't feel like they didn't draft too well this draft. They didn't have a bad draft at all though. They had a lot of great value picks, and that's what I really adore from this Browns draft class. Jamari Thrash is a great pick here at receiver, and I love that pick for the Cleveland Browns. Pair up with your new guy you traded for this offseason in Jerry Jeudy from the Broncos, and I feel like that receiver room is very, very underrated, and they're going to perform very well. Give Deshaun Watson another target. Jordan Travis, the 8th quarterback drafted, another one off the board since the 1st round, goes to New York to learn behind Aaron Rodgers, goes to the Jets, that New York team, let me be specific, goes to the New York Jets. Obviously that gruesome broken leg injury coming out of college, ending his college career. I feel like he'll be a guy that can sit behind, learn behind A-Rod. Might be a second-year starter, might not. I feel like he'll be a career backup. Jordan Travis was a very solid player, very good with his legs and everything. He might get a chance to start in New York. I feel like they'll start him a couple games next season, maybe this season if A-Rod, something happens, like I discussed in that Zach Wilson video. But I feel like Jordan Travis is a guy with a ton of potential, very good quarterback, obviously. And I actually like that Jordan Travis pick there. Give more depth to your QB room after trading Zach Wilson. And if he starts, he starts. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But he adds a lot of depth to that quarterback room. And I really like Jordan Travis. The final note I have for the 5th round, again, is a Jets note. 2 picks later, they go out and get Isaiah Davis out of South Dakota State. FCS guy, very fast running back, very twitchy. Very, very ironic that he played for the Jackrabbits. I mean, he just plays, he's explosive, he's versatile, and I really like that pick out of South Dakota State. Add more depth to that running back room. Again, they took Braylon Allen earlier. Now they go out and they get Isaiah Davis to pair up with Breece Hall. Just expanding that running back room even more. You also have Zonovan Knight in that backfield. So that's 4 very solid backs. You're building a great backfield back there, and I like what the Jets are doing. To start off the 6th round, the first note I have is Malik Washington going to Miami. Great value in the 6th round and a great scheme fit. We know the Dolphins are all about their speed. We know they're all about handoffs, end arounds, screen passes, jet passes. This is perfect. Malik Washington fits that mold beautifully. Very fast guy. He's 5'8". One of my hidden gems. Again, if you watch that hidden gem video, I had him at number 5 on that list. And to go to my Dolphins, I loved it. I saw it and I got very excited. Again, very fast, and he fits exactly what Mike McDaniel wants to do. I love the Malik Washington pick at 184. New England takes their second quarterback with Joe Milton, a very strong arm guy out of Tennessee, as we know. Very, very good quarterback. I like Joe Milton. He'll be a career backup, obviously, unless he gets a chance to start. Who knows? Maybe down the line something happens and he starts and he balls out. But I feel like Joe Milton will be a career backup, just a guy, maybe a journeyman, but just in there for New England. Jared Mayo's scheme, he saw something he liked and he went out and added him to the quarterback room. I don't disagree with that pick at 193. The first kicker taken off the board at 203 goes to the Vikings. It's Will Reichard out of Alabama. Very solid kicker. Very, very good throughout his college career. If you're the first kicker going off the board, you know you're very good, very talented. And then a couple picks later, we saw at 209 and then 212, 2 more kickers go off the board. That's Cam Little to the Jaguars, and then obviously Josh McCarty to the Rams. The kickers were going off the board in the 6th round. Kickers were going off the board in the 6th round. Some other notes I have are Nathaniel Watson to the Browns at 206. Amazing value. Again, they picked great value picks this draft down the board. They did very good with their scouting down the board. Nathaniel Watson was a 5-year linebacker at Mississippi State, and someone that I scouted, I originally had on my 5 hidden gems list, and I love Nathaniel Watson. Felt like he's a great player out of college. And then 208, we saw my number 2 hidden gem go off the board, Dylan Laub out of New Hampshire. I mean, he is a beast, a guy that adds great versatility and great value to that Raiders backfield. Might play him at slot. Like, they have Hunter Renfrow, who is a guy, they kind of remind me of each other a lot. They play him in the slot, then they'll be partnered up together, learn a lot from each other. Dylan Laub in the backfield again in that running back room. They lost Josh Jacobs, so now you have a new running back at 208. I really like the Dylan Laub pick, and I feel like the Raiders is a very, very good fit for what he is made of, and I love that he went to the Raiders at 208. To wrap up the 6th round, I feel like the Ravens hit a home run with a backup quarterback, depth in that quarterback room. Devin Leary, a 2-year quarterback at NC State, transferred to Kentucky for the final year. He is a very strong arm, very talented with that arm, and he is a great backup there in Baltimore. We know if anything happens with Lamar, he's had injury concerns in the past. If you need a guy to go in, Devin Leary can go in and get the job done. Very talented quarterback, and I love the Devin Leary pick there at 218. The final round in the NFL draft, the 7th round, closing everything out, we have Brendan Rice to the Chargers at 225. Their second receiver taking, obviously we saw him take Ladd McConkey at the beginning of the 2nd round, and he's Jerry Rice's son. Obviously we know, you probably haven't heard it enough throughout the whole combine process and everything. Brendan Rice going off the board at 225. We have James Williams, the safety out of the U, going to the Titans at pick 242. Very strong physical safety, comes up hard hitting. He had picks. He's not the fastest guy, but on his returns he can just make men miss, run people over. Very hard-hitting safety again out of the U. When's the last time we heard of his hard-hitting safety coming out of the U? He was a stud, Sean Taylor. I'm not comparing him to Sean Taylor. I'm not saying he is Sean Taylor, but a hard-hitting safety out of the U, and you get him in the 7th round, that's not bad value, and that's not a bad pick at all. I love that pick for the Titans, James Taylor. They lost Kevin Byard, off season 2 seasons ago. It was like mid-season. That trade happened to the Eagles. James Williams coming in to play safety for the Titans. Might not start immediately, but I really like the pick. Gives you great depth, and he's a hard-hitting safety. I really like that pick. We saw the 9th quarterback go off the board in Michael Pratt at 245 to the Packers. Gives depth to that room as well. Jordan Love back up. Michael Pratt was a very solid guy at Tulane throughout his whole career. He was a great quarterback, always getting job done, and he was a winner. We obviously saw him take him to that Sugar Bowl in 2022 against USC, defeating Caleb Williams in that USC squad. Great stuff out of Michael Pratt his whole Tulane career, and I like the pick there at 245 to the Packers. We have Cornelius Johnson, a guy that sticks out to me, a great receiver out of Georgia. He went 253 to the Chargers, their third receiver taken in this draft class, and we know that was their area of concern definitely going into this class. Quentin Johnston and Joshua Palmer were your two stud receivers, your two starting receivers in that draft class. Now you go out, you add Lab McConkey, you go out, you add Brendan Rice, you go out and you add Cornelius Johnson. I like those three additions to the receiver room, just adding so much more depth after losing two of your best receivers, and that just adds so much more space, so much more depth, so much more stuff to work with. Three more receivers to that receiver room, and I like the pick there for the Chargers. The last note I have is Mr. Irrelevant Jalen Key, safety out of Alabama, and we know how these safeties out of Alabama, these DBs in fact out of Alabama, have translated to the NFL. You just look at Brian Branch last year, you have some more this year, obviously with Terrion Arnold to the Lions this year, Kool-Aid McKinstry to the Saints. Now the very last pick, Jalen Key, Mr. Irrelevant, safety out of Alabama, a guy that could make some noise for the Jets. Obviously the Jets had Mr. Irrelevant pick this year. Well, look out for Jalen Key. He might not play instantly, he might not start. I mean, we have Bryce Hall, you have Sauce Gardner, you have all those guys, but I would not count out seeing some depth out of Jalen Key and just seeing some more movement out of Jalen Key. Mr. Irrelevant might make some noise, who knows, we'll have to look out for it. But that wraps up my notes for the 7th round. And one last thing before we close this thing out, my draft winners and my draft losers. I have a lot of winners. Winners for me are the Bears, the Eagles, Colts, the Vikings, the Cardinals. Some honorable mentions, some guys that definitely won the draft, but not as much as those others I named. Patriots, I feel like had a great draft. Texans and the Jets, some guys that had some great drafts. I love what they did as well. All winners in my book, all drafted very, very well. And then some of the losers I have are the Falcons, just whiffing on that 8 pick. Who knows what they're going to do with that Michael Penix Jr., but it just wasn't necessary. You have a guy like Dallas Turner on the board. I would have taken him, run with him. Dallas Turner was a stud edge at Alabama, and they just whiffed on it. The Browns, just for the lack of a first round pick, and I feel like they could have drafted better, had great value picks. They're not overall losers. I feel like they could have done more. They just left some things on the board, but they did well with what they had. But I still have the Browns as one of my losers. And then the final loser I had was the Panthers. Again, they jumped up, they got their guy, they got Xavier Legette, give Bryce Young a target. But even with trading up, I feel like they still could have done a little more. They left some on the board. With this stacked draft class, they still could have got up and got some more studs. But overall, was not a bad draft for either Panthers or the Browns. And even the Falcons didn't have a terrible draft. They still got some guys, but could have been a lot better with this loaded draft class. One of the best draft classes we've had in recent memory. Love this draft class. So many studs, so much value, so many overall great picks. And I feel like each team got better. They got better in areas where they needed, got better in areas that could have been held off a little bit, but they still went out and got some guys, some studs. There were studs loaded at every position. Loved this year's draft class overall, and I'm excited to see how it translates to the field in 2024-2025 NFL season. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, but most importantly, make sure to keep God number one. I love you all very, very much. It's been Brogan Hillman, and I'm out.